All right, it is 6 o'clock, and it looks like we have a good collection of people. I'm sure we'll have some more people filtering in here as we go on. That intro slides. I just want to say welcome to everyone. This is the first of a series of 4 town halls where we'll be speaking to all of our student athletes and the families of student athletes through for all 24 of our programs here at Gettysburg College, trying to give everyone an update about the return to campus and the steps that are being taken by the institution and by our department specifically in regard to COVID-19 and the health and safety guidelines. We have an all-star cast of presenters today. It's a quality starting 5, I can promise you that, and we will introduce them in just a few moments. Just so you know, my name is Corey Jewett. I'm the Director of Athletic Communications here at Gettysburg College. This is my 14th year. Surprisingly, it doesn't seem like it's been that long, but this year in itself has been one of the longest of all time. But we are starting another year at Gettysburg College under new circumstances and tackling new issues as they come to us. Now, this town hall its purpose is to inform you all. We know you all have many questions. We've received some before this week, and we want to open the floor to questions at the end of this presentation. So if you do have a question that you don't feel is addressed over the next 30 to 40 minutes by our presenters, we'd ask that you please submit that question in the chat box and please send it directly to me. We will try to get to every single question, and my guess is that some questions will be answered over the course of the presentation, or some people might have the same questions too. Again, that will be at the end of the presentation. That way we can have all the presenters say all their information that they have. Also, please make sure you are muted during the presentation as well. I do have the power to mute everyone, and I'm not afraid to do that. So just starting out, I just want to give everyone a quick look at some of the resources the college and the athletics department has put together, as well as the NCAA. Those are some helpful links. The college keeps their page, the Better Together page, updated fairly consistently. I think I see new information or receive new emails myself almost every single day on everything from move-in, academic schedules, and everything in between. So while some of our presenters might be able to answer a few questions that are more generally related to the campus, I would advise you to please seek out that Better Together page to find more specific and detailed information about some of the other places on campus. Again, move-in I know is at the top of everyone's mind, the academic schedule and other issues surrounding that as well. Also, we have a COVID-19 fact page ourselves. It's got general questions and answers on it right now. We are working to expand that. I just received several plans from the athletic training room, the equipment room, from campus recreation. We'll be updating that this week. So I encourage you to look at that every day for new information. And as always, look at the NCAA COVID-19 resources. They have a tremendous amount of resources spanning the resocialization of collegiate sport, all the way to cool videos with student athletes and coaches too, explaining the things that they've been doing on their own. But without further ado, we are going to get into our presentation. And leading off today is Mike Mattia, the Executive Director of Intercollegiate Athletics and Campus Recreation. Mike is in his 3rd year at Gettysburg. He's previously at Johns Hopkins University, so he's been associated with the Centennial Conference for almost 2 decades now. So I will turn the floor over to Mike.
Thanks, Corey. It's hard to believe that it's been that long that I've been involved with the Centennial Conference. And just want to start out by welcoming and thanking everybody for joining us this evening. I know this time of uncertainty, and I know there's been a lot of uncertainty during this time, has been very difficult to everybody, and there are a lot of questions and still some things that are unanswered out there. Our goal today is to provide as many answers as we possibly can, but just also understand that things are changing daily, and we try to keep everybody updated as best we can. Again, hopefully we'll be able to answer all of your questions tonight. I want to start out by just talking about the decision-making process and how we got to where we currently are now. So as everybody knows, in the early part of July, the Centennial Conference presidents made the decision And the conference is run by the presidents, the collective of all 11 presidents from all 11 Centennial institutions. They made the final decision to suspend athletic competition during the fall semester, which includes the fall sports, as well as the members of golf and tennis who are on today, and also to delay potentially or to evaluate later on in September whether or not we can continue to participate in the later this fall, or potentially move some sports to the spring. Who was advising that committee? The Centennial Conference athletic directors had many meetings, and were advising that committee and speaking to our presidents individually. When I had many conversations leading up to that decision with our President Giuliano, and I can reiterate to you his support of the athletic department and his desire to have us in any capacity that we possibly can that's safe and healthy to get together as teams and engage with our teammates and coaches. We had a Centennial Conference advisor group that was put together of various people, from administrators to faculty to all kinds of people across campus from varying conference schools. Our own Mike Cantelli and our team doctor, Dr. Lavalle, were part of that group and had some good information to provide. All of the Centennial presidents heard from Dr. Adalja, who is a Johns Hopkins University public health expert. He makes his rounds on CNN. He's been writing a lot of op-eds in the Washington Post recently during this time. And he's also a member of the NCAA advisory group, who has been helping advise the NCAA, starting with in March, when the NCAA made the decision to cancel all winter and spring championships. So all that information came together to make the decision where we are at. And again, health and safety were the number one priority of our student athletes and coaches, the staff, the campus, and our surrounding community, not only on Gettysburg campus, but all of their campuses in the conference. And another concern that led to this decision was also bringing outside groups onto campus. And for us specifically, this would be our teams traveling outside to go to another campus and then coming back onto campus, and other schools coming onto our campus as well. I know many of you are participating fully in whatever sport you play this summer with your club teams. And I was explaining this to one of our coaches just the other day, that's obviously your individual choice to make with you and your family, and how you deal with going through this pandemic. But when you talk about it on our campus, let's talk about Gettysburg specifically. You're going beyond just your own particular family, just yourself, to then expanding to your team, to the rest of the student population, and all the employees who work here, and the entire Gettysburg area community as well. So that family goes from, the typical 4.5 people per family in this country to over 3,000 people, if not more, in this area that we have to take into account, and all the different things people are going through in our community. So that is why we led to the decision where we're at now. Now, right at this moment, our next decision is supposed to be at the end of September, where we're going to review what's going on campuses, our campus and campuses throughout the Centennial Conference, as to where the next steps will be moving forward. Obviously, you've seen since the July 7th, many Centennial Conference schools have either backtracked and decided to move 100% online, or only bring a certain number of students back, or just flat out make announcements that they are canceling all of their fall sports. There are about 4 schools left in the Centennial, Gettysburg being included in them, that has not said that. And we are still under the assumption of the original decision early on in July. Now, obviously, we're going to be following the progress of the virus on our campus and throughout the region and the remaining Centennial Conference campuses. I do have a meeting with the Centennial Conference ADs this Wednesday, where this is obviously primary of our agenda items to discuss. And we will certainly update anybody with that information and any changes that may have at campus and conference-wide. Again, that the progress of the virus on our campus and the region not only is going to determine what we do for this fall semester, but as it progresses as we move into the spring as well. Corey, if you could go on to the next slide. So let's talk specifically about Gettysburg College and some of the decisions that were made to where we're at and what we're about to lay out in terms of our policies, procedures, and protocols moving forward. The first one was back in May. We had an athletic subcommittee make a recommendation to our president. That committee was made up of athletic administrators. We had coaches, our faculty athletic rep. We had a few campus partners as well as our sports medicine folks on there. Our subcommittee was part of a larger group that were making recommendations to the president, which ultimately led to the decision campus-wide. All of the campus-wide recommendations led to the decision for Gettysburg College to decide to come back as a fully residential institution. And the athletic department's recommendation was, yes, we felt comfortable that we could provide some form of athletic activity for our student athletes. So once the decision to come back fully residential was made, then that led to a second committee that was done through June and July. It was an athletic action team made up of the same people on our athletic subcommittee, and we added some student athletes to that group as well. On top of that, we had a member of the consulting firm that we were using, Keeling and Associates, Suzanne Kofi, who I believe is on this call and will help us answer any questions or fill in any holes potentially that we may have. She is a former AD in the NESCAC for a number of years, and her assistance has been vital and very helpful during this process. Through this process, we were following all CDC, state, local, NCAA and Centennial Conference information that has come out to come up with our plan. And I can tell you that our coaches, our staff, the committee members that we have put a lot of thought and hard work into the plans that we have in place. And I want to thank them for the tremendous effort that they've put in and are preparing to put in. And I know that we're very excited about having the student athletes return. I was just on a meeting today and said that we're very much looking forward to that energy the students bring on our campus, and there's going to be a much needed shot in our arm to power us through this fall semester. And I know that the students are going to do a phenomenal job, and as well as the coaches, to support them in any needs that they have. So what are the expectations on our campus for our student athletes? So we're still going to be able, the student athletes are still going to be able to engage with their coaches and teammates like I had mentioned. We will have organized activity, athletic activity, and it's going to be a phased-in approach. We're going to start out slow and in small groups, and I know Mike Cantelli and Mike Hoyt will get into a little more detail later on in this presentation, and it's going to be sport specific. We're going to have, it's very important that all of our student athletes follow all of our new policies and procedures, both from the athletic department and campus wide. And again, mentioning that you will have these sport specific plans with your individual coaches, and those meetings are set up later on this month. There will be a student athlete pledge similar to the campus wide pledge that all of you have signed that will be returning to campus. It will be accompanied with the NCAA paperwork. Those of you who are returners, it's the traditional NCAA paperwork you fill out over the summer. I know it's a little late coming out this year than typical, so that'll be coming out this week along with that student athlete pledge. And we ask you to read it and sign it. It's important. It's very similar to the one, like I said, the campus-wide pledge that you had, but a few other extra items in there that are specific to the athletic department. And please don't hesitate to reach out to us with any questions after you've read that pledge. We've been providing, I know Corey's done a phenomenal job with some interviews of the 4 members of the student athletes who are on our athletic action team, implementation action team, as well as some social media posts about, everybody saw our basketball sophomore, Suki, who was basically showing what a typical day in the life of a student athlete will be coming up. And I know we have some other videos specific to your interactions with the equipment room or in the training room or in your time in the Jaeger Center coming out in the near future as well. So the NCAA, to supporting this and what they've been doing, they've been reacting to what the campus, the Division III schools and what's going on in those individual campuses and conferences. It's an association that we're all members of, and essentially we are leading the NCAA, so they are responding to what we do. As of this meeting, this morning there were two. I think we're down to one conference now in Division III that hasn't announced their plans. Most of Division III conferences now have announced that they've either postponed or canceled their fall competitions. Some of those conferences came out early and said they were going to move forward, and now have backtracked and followed suit with the majority of the other conferences. As many of you know, the NCAA came out with a blanket waiver for this fall and for this entire academic year from an eligibility standpoint that stated if you participate in 1/3 of what the typical minimum athletic competitions are in your particular sport, that you will get a blanket waiver and get the entire year back. I've spoken to a number of people individually, and I asked, and each person's eligibility case is different based off of where they're at in terms of their degree to graduation and what class level they are. So if anybody still has any eligibility questions or concerns, I ask you to reach out specifically to your head coach, and we can set up a time to walk through that process for you and let you know where you specifically stand in that regard. Something new that came out just recently from the NCAA, and it's specific to fall and spring most specifically, is that the traditional and non-traditional seasons we typically have been eliminated and have instead been replaced by 114 days. So each day of organized athletic activity will count as a day, and each team gets up to 114 days. Now, for the fall sports, this helps us significantly if we were to move our competition and able to participate in some form of competition in the spring. It helps spread that out and gives us some flexibility there. And again, you'll be working on sport specific with your coaches as to the number of days and workouts and all of that. From an NCAA championships perspective, I know there is a proposal right now about canceling fall championships. However, that proposal's been out there for about a week and a half now without a decision. We're waiting to hear on that, and could come as soon as tomorrow, but that is yet to be determined as well. And that I believe is association-wide, from Division I all the way down to Division III. So as you can imagine, there are a lot of logistics and a lot of other things involved in making that decision. And as of now, Division III championships are still in play for the fall. That is yet to be determined. And again, when that information is decided by the NCAA, we will present that and keep everybody updated there. If we could go on to the next slide. Yep, thank you, Corey. And just again, I want to reiterate to everybody about how all these plans are fluid. As you've seen throughout this entire process, I ask for your patience and flexibility. We will continue to update people and everyone, coaches, student athletes, families, as these changes come about. This is not going to be a normal semester. I'm sure you've heard that, and probably pretty sick of that up to this point. I just ask that you are aware that there's going to be a good number of changes, both on campus from a general perspective and then from the athletic perspective as well, and prepare yourself for that when you get on. Our ability to move through the phases and get to some greater competition and more sport-specific type of activity will ultimately be determined by the student athletes and how they interact with each other and their ability to follow the rules, not only from the athletic department, but also set on campus as well. And what we've been asking our student athletes from the beginning of this is, let's continue to be leaders on campus and let's help change the culture on campus. And the changing of the culture is let's follow the rules in place. Whether or not we're able to continue through the academic side as a residential institution, and whether or not we're going to be able to move forward and possibly compete later on in the fall or even in the spring will all be determined in our students and student athletes' ability to follow the rules that we have set in place. So I'm confident in our coaches to be able to provide tremendous examples for our student athletes, and very confident in our student athletes to be leaders on campus. And that's something our president specifically has asked me to ask our student athletes is let's continue to set a good example on campus of how we need to act and follow all of the rules. So that's all I've got for now. I'm looking forward to following up and answering questions later on. And you're going to hear some great information throughout this entire presentation. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And of course, we will be hearing from you later. We do have some questions from Mike to answer at the end of the presentation. Again, if anyone else has some questions as we go through this, please submit those in the chat. One real quick thing, I know the weather across the East Coast is kind of not good right now. So just want everyone to know we are recording this video. So we will upload that later tonight and send the link out to everybody, both for those at home here that might have their internet cut out and those that aren't able to tune in tonight. And one other note, the college will be hosting another town hall this Wednesday, August 5th at 1:30 p.m. You can find the link to that on the Better Together website off the gettysburg.edu page. I'm sure they'll have some more information regarding move-in, scheduling, and other pertinent facts. So without further ado, we move to our next presenter, and that is the legendary Mike Kentelly, the 1988 Gettysburg grad. He is the Director of Athletic Medicine and Sports Performance, and he is in his 31st year at Gettysburg. So everyone, welcome Mike.
Thanks, Corey. Thanks, everybody. Just another typical year in my 31-year history here, so we're excited. I miss seeing all your faces because all I'm looking at right now is Corey, Coach Metric, and Mike Mattia, and I'd rather see all you guys. So we're excited to get you, sorry, Coach Metric. We're excited to get you guys on campus and get going. I'm going to try to make this quick so we have a lot of time at the end for questions so we can get to what you guys really want to hear. Just a quick thing about our staffing. We had a quick staff change, especially since men's soccer here. Matt O'Sullivan has left us to go to Northwestern University out in Chicago, so a great opportunity for him. We will miss him, but we did hire Lauren Fry, who will be taking his spot in the athletic training room. So we'll introduce you to her as soon as we can all get around the table here and talk. So I just want to go quick over some things. First, we're going to stay away from the COVID, if you can believe that. We have a standard of care, right, that we mandate every year. And for you upperclassmen, you've done this each year. So I understand there's a lot of paperwork, and parents and students out there, I appreciate you going through the process. I know there's a lot, you're getting pulled in all directions. But for the athletic training room, I want to just go over real quick what needs to be done. And hopefully most of this, if not all of it, is done for you guys. So physical, all first year and juniors and transfers, I forgot to add transfers in there, should have gotten a physical at home and uploaded that to your Medicat portal. If you do not know Medicat yet, you need to become super familiar with that, because that is our electronic medical record system. And that's going to be your go-to place for a lot of these forms, for a lot of the COVID information that you'll be doing when you return. And just make sure you know how to upload information and how to access that. Impact testing. Again, a little bit of a change. We added juniors onto this year because of some NCAA rules and regulations. We had to add up the baseline. And impact, for some of you know, it's a baseline concussion test. So all first years and juniors and transfers need to do this also. If this is the first you're hearing about it, go back into your email and look up Susan Fumagalli Mahoney. She sent you an email probably 3 weeks ago now, and all the directions are on that. Real key, do not skip the demographics section of that. If you do, or if you have already, you will not be recorded. And Lindsay already showed me a page today with about 30 names of people that have skipped that. So you may have to take that again. So if you haven't taken it, do not skip that section. So all first years, juniors, and transfers need to do that. Sickle cell, This again is in all those forms on your student center. Only first years need to do that, first years and transfers. I'm gonna go quick through that. And then health history is a medical recheck. So basically everything since your last physical or your last clearance at Gettysburg, we just wanna know, what have you been up to in your health wise? Has anything changed in your status so that we can better take care of you and make sure you're healthy to participate. Obviously, one big thing in that is any COVID testing. If you've been positive, we really need to know that as soon as possible. All right, Corey, we'll switch. All right, there you go. I went to the next next slide already. So if you do test positive or have tested positive, please let me know or the health center know right away. Want to give you some information of what you're going to be doing. As an athlete, you're going to be required to do a daily symptom survey. Okay, again, that's going to be on Medicat. You're going to get up first thing, fill out, say, yeah, I feel great today. I'm ready to roll, ready to get in with Mike Hoyt and do some strength and conditioning work. And you're going to do that. It's going to come out. It's going to give you a little green dot on your Medicat portal. You're going to be able to show your strength and conditioning people, yeah, I'm ready to roll. And so then you can go on your normal day. With one thing, if you have not done, and the health center asked me to remind you guys, on your Medicat under required forms, there's a pre-arrival form. So the school is asking you all to complete that pre-arrival form now. Basically, it's just asking you if you've been in contact with anybody with positive COVID, if you've tested positive, and just getting some background information so that we're prepared when you guys get here to better treat you and know what's going on in your past few weeks of history. Speaking of the past few weeks of history, you know, the school has asked you to really try to self-quarantine now. We're within that 2 weeks of returning to campus. So I hope you're really taking that into consideration in your daily activities now and trying to really quarantine yourself, stay away, stay healthy, wearing your mask, all that fun stuff that we'll talk about a little bit more later. I'm going to go real quick for this changes in the athletic training room because we're going to have team meetings later that I'll cover more for the student athletes. But the biggest one there is that we're going to be appointment only. So it's not going to be the same place where we all come in before practice and stretch and do all that, or after practice and do ice baths and all that fun stuff. We're now going to be appointment only, and that'll be again through your Medicat portal. Go ahead, Corey, please. One big thing I want to, so you guys can prep some things you might have seen on the last slide. If you are in need of a lot of the shared items, such as stretching, foam rollers, stretching cords, massage sticks, all those things will not be available because we have to decrease the number of things that are shared. So if you feel you need that to participate, make sure you bring something. And then the top one, the biggest thing is there'll be no water bottles or on-field water fountains available. So again, your little ticket to get into practice is going to be showing that daily symptom chart and bringing a filled water bottle with you. So prepare now, bring that water bottle back to school, and make sure you have that at every strength and conditioning, every practice, every athletic event. We will have extra water out there. We're trying to figure out how to no touch refill out there on the field, but we'll figure that part out. So please bring water bottles back with you. All right, Corey, we're going quick. All right, this is probably more what you want to hear. So like Mike said, the way we're gonna get back into athletic activity is gonna be a slow, methodical approach to try to be, again, safety is our number one concern, is everything that I do. You guys, your health and safety is our number one commitment. So with this COVID, it is right there also. So our introductory phase is going to be virtual activities and medical clearances. And then we'll transition into small group work, 10 people or less. And then we'll transition into larger groups, about 25. We'll start to share some equipment. More of an organized practice type thing. Phase 3, we'll begin to add some contact drills, and then finally phase 4 will return to a normal practice and competition. You'll notice on here, you're probably all asking, what's the time? How long do I have to be in introductory phase? Well, we purposely did not put time frames on here for a couple reasons. We want to see what our community of Gettysburg is looking like, Gettysburg College, Gettysburg community, what Adams County is looking like, what the state of Pennsylvania, what everything is looking like as far as this virus. So that'll help progress us through these phases. If everything's going well, as I anticipate they will, we can move through these things at a more rapid pace. But we'll be monitoring. There may be a time where we might have to go back for a little bit and get things under control and then go forward. So it's all, again, the very changing process, but know that that's the process we're going to go through, and it's going to be a slow, methodical, with everyone's health and safety as the number one decision making through that whole process. All right. Am I done there, Corey? One last thing before we go to the other Mike and Mike show. We are the culture change. The last thing, Mike mentioned it a little bit. It is going to be a little bit of a change, you guys. And as always, student athletes, right? And coaches, we're the leaders of this campus. So we're going to have to set the example. When you are in the athletics world, in the fitness, you're out in the field, we're going to be the leaders. That's going to be the easy part for all of us, right? But on a Friday night, Saturday night, dealing with other people, that's going to be the hard part for all you guys, where you're going to have to say, hey, I have this commitment to athletics. I really want to get out there and participate. So it may be some tough conversations with your buddies and some tough decisions. But with all this, and you're probably going to hear this a lot tonight, with all of this, we're working together. We can make this happen, and looking forward to see all your faces pretty soon. Thanks, Corey.
Thanks, Mike. And as Mike Cantelli mentioned, we're going to the third Mike of the hour, Mike Hoyt. And of course, Mike Hoyt is the head strength and conditioning coach and our assistant football coach, defensive coordinator for the Bullets football team. And he's in his third year at Gettysburg. And he'll be talking a lot about the strength and conditioning, what's going to be going on in the introductory phases for all the teams, as well as some facilities. So Mike, take it away.
Thank you, Corey. I appreciate it. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. It's great to have you here. I really appreciate you being here. Culture change, Mike Cantelli just spoke about it, and this is big. It's going to be important that each and every one of us work hard to get this new culture implemented as we go forward. So, Corey, if you can go to the first slide here. Right now, what we've got is there are going to be 4 training spaces for our athletic teams in terms of strength and conditioning. So the first and biggest change you're going to notice is Hauser Fieldhouse at one end. And if you remember where the big garage door is down at that far end, that is going to be all free weight and strength training equipment. We're in the process of moving all the racks and platforms and half of the dumbbells over there to create an athlete-only strength area. So that's going to be very nice that we have our own space that we can utilize, and really it's going to be spread out because we've got more space in there. So that's the first space that we're going to be using. We've got 2 areas in Musselman Stadium. The first area is going to have weight bars and bumper plates. There's actually going to be 8 stations there that we can use for Olympic type training and other strength training exercises where you're using bars and plates. The second area in Musselman Stadium is going to be more of a non-traditional area. We're going to incorporate some of the strongman type training where we're using slosh pipes, we're using Bulgarian sandbags, we're using tires and things of that nature. So it'll create a little bit of excitement. It'll give us another area to train in. So I'm really looking forward to getting that area up and running here. And then the fourth area, which we've used in the past for Spark training and things like that, we do have Clark Field as well. So we've got 4 spaces where we can get a lot of work done in a short period of time. Each of these spaces will be reserved through myself. It's not going to be where these facilities are open all day long and a free-for-all. So they will be reserved with your group, with your team, broken down into the smaller groups. So you'll have a specific time to use those facilities, and your coaches will be reserving those times as we get moving here. Each team will have their training program on file so that we can be sure that you're using good scientific principles and following acclimatization guidelines, which we're going to talk about more in just a moment. The next thing that's important is when you're entering and exiting these areas, the building and then the different training areas, that you follow the new traffic patterns that are going to be established. There's going to be signage that's going to show you the way to move throughout the building and how to get to these areas and how to exit these areas so that we can encourage social distancing. We're trying to eliminate two-way traffic flow, especially in narrow hallways and things of that nature. So it's really important that you follow those signs. And this is going to be a change because we're creatures of habit, and we have a typical way that we move throughout the building. It's going to be a lot different. So we've got to make sure we're paying attention to that. The next thing is our training sessions. They're going to be followed by time for sanitation. So we're going to start with 60-minute blocks. We'll move to 90-minute blocks as we get going. But that entire 60-minute block or 90-minute block will not be training. There'll be about a 15-minute time frame at the end of each training session where we will, as a group, be sanitizing the equipment that we've used. So you as an athlete will be responsible for cleaning your particular area. With the small groups, it'll be one athlete using one bar. You'll be using the weights at your particular rack. So you'll be cleaning your area at the end of the workout. That'll be critical. We will have sanitation stations in each of these training areas, multiple sanitation stations with spray bottles and wipes and things of that nature, so that we can ensure that it's clean for yourself and then also clean for the next group as they come in and get to their training group. Corey, you can go ahead and go to the next one. You kind of heard Mike Cantelli talk about this first bullet point here, but we will have daily temperature checks. When you arrive to your training session, you will have your temperature taken, and you must have taken the daily symptom survey that Mike just mentioned through Medicat, and have the green dot so you can show your coach in charge of your training session that you've completed that. And then the other thing that Mike mentioned, for entry into that training session, you'll also need a water bottle that's filled, because there will be no drinking fountains. There will be no water stations. You'll have to bring your own. Physical distancing needs to occur while you're in the facility, where you're in that space, 6-foot minimum. And then when we're exercising, we want a 10-foot space because of the increased heart rate and respiration. We need to have more space. The nice thing about the Hauser free weight area and the other areas that we're going to be setting up, we're making sure that we distance those stations a minimum of 10 feet. So when you're at a particular rack, you can be sure that you're a minimum of 10 feet while you're exercising. The next bullet point goes to what you'll be wearing for the workouts. The first phase, the intro phase, there will be no laundry done. Kelly and her staff won't be doing laundry for us. So it is important that you be ready with your athletic gear, your own athletic clothing. Make sure you're wearing proper footwear and all that stuff like we normally do. But it will be your own stuff. We won't be issuing you Gettysburg stuff initially. Spotting is going to have to change. Typically in the past, proper spotting technique, there is the possibility of personal contact. So we've got to change how we spot exercises. This will be coached up and taught in your particular workout groups. But as a general rule, you obviously are going to be wearing a mask, and we're going to have spotters on each end of the bar while you're doing an exercise, rather than having one spotter spotting the individual. And this will allow us that elimination of personal contact. The last 2 points are really important. You must train in the same group every time. So coaches will be getting me their groups. It'll be based on class schedules and things like that. Once you're in an assigned group, that's the group that you're going to train with. We don't want you training with one group the first day and then the next day train with a different group, because we're asking for cross-contamination. So you must train with that same group day after day after day. In addition to that, the coach that works with your group will be the same coach that works with you day after day after day. I won't work with one group one day and then the next group work with a different group. Each coach in the department will work with the same group day in and day out, and again, so that we can eliminate that cross-contamination. Go ahead, Corey. We talked about the training areas. We do have the sanitation stations, so we will be asking you as student athletes to disinfect your area at the end of each training station, or at the end of each training session, using those sanitation stations. We are encouraging that you wash your hands regularly before you come in for your training session. Wash them and use sanitizer. During the workout, we encourage that. And then after the workout, make sure you're doing the same thing. We've already talked about masks. While you're in the facility, while you're exercising indoors, outdoors, we want you and the coaches to be wearing masks at all times. This next bullet point is really important. I know, especially with Olympic lifts and heavier lifting, it's nice to use chalk because it increases your grip. We are discouraging the use of chalk. We're eliminating chalk. We don't want you bringing your own chalk. That is a breeding ground for the virus. We're going to encourage you to bring workout gloves. If grip is an issue for you, we're going to encourage you to wear workout gloves. So, if you can get your own pair and bring those with you, that's going to solve grip issues when it comes to heavy exercises. I'm going to skip over the group size. Mike Cantelli already did a great job of talking through that. It's the exact same stuff that we just talked about. The testing as well. Mike talked about that and the screening requirements before you start participation. The acclimatization phase, folks, we're looking at a 4-week period where we're going to be slowly, gradually increasing the volume, increasing the intensity, or both, depending on the program. And we're looking at a 50% reduction to start, increasing it to just a 30% reduction, 20%, and a 10% as we move forward in this acclimatization period. So we're slowly introducing you back in to training. We can't be sure, obviously, when there's a layoff, you're always worried about that as a coach, how much have the athletes been doing. And I know most of our coaches are doing a great job tracking you throughout the summer. But again, we want to err on the and ease you back into training so that we can do it safely and effectively. In addition to the decrease in volume and intensity, we're looking at work-rest ratios at 1 to 4. So if you're doing an exercise that takes 10 seconds, for you math majors, that's going to be a 40-second rest period following. If it's a 1-minute run, it's going to be followed by a 4-minute rest after that. And then as things progress, we can change that work-rest ratio and make it a little more intense. We'll also be following the FIT principle. So in terms of frequency, intensity, and volume, that's going to be reduced initially. And in terms of the frequency, some of that's going to play out just because of the smaller group size, because we've got so many athletes at Gettysburg and the training spaces. Your frequency of training early on is going to be reduced anyways, just because of group size and facility space. Go ahead, Corey. The next thing is your dynamic warm-ups. When you come to your training session, as you guys know, we usually start out with a dynamic warm-up. We are going to use that to help reestablish sport-related movement patterns. So you've been away from activity for quite some time now, so we want to be sure that we get you back into those athletic movement patterns, which will help injury prevention. We want to make sure you're moving properly and efficiently. We'll also be introducing some prehab exercises. Again, this all goes back to injury prevention, which is a big part of what we want to do as strength and conditioning coaches. We obviously going to have to be paying attention to environmental factors. In August and September, even early October, sometimes we can get high humidity, a lot of heat. So we're going to be paying attention to that. You may be training a lot more in the mornings and evenings as we get going initially, just due to those factors there. And then the last thing, we may be grouping you. It's going to depend on the team and where you are in terms of how we've been able to track you over the summer. But we're going to try to, if at all possible, be grouping athletes within teams based on your conditioning level, so that if you have been doing a great job over the summer, we'll be able to move you along a little bit quicker than somebody that hasn't had the access to training that some of the more advanced athletes have had. So I believe that is it for strength and conditioning. So I give it back over to Corey.
All right, thanks, Mike. And as Mike noted, he's working closely with our coaches as well to develop plans, and it's all a working together, real collaborative effort between all the different facets that you're seeing here, and a lot of what the coaches are doing. You're building off this plan, so don't forget, everyone, that your coaches will be in touch with you as well about individualized program plans and how that's going to shape up too. That's all being worked out. But now we have, if Mike Cantelli's legendary, I don't know what status to put Kelly Jones, who's going into her 34th year at Gettysburg. You see her there with two of our favorite student athletes of all time, Lou Carasillo from wrestling and Ryan Thompson from football. Kelly, take it away for the equipment room.
Thanks, Corey. I would just call myself ordinary, but I very much enjoy what I do. I am also glad to be on this meeting, seeing all of you guys. I can't wait to see you guys come back to campus. I will be really brief. If Corey, you can go to the next slide. There is a team shop for this fitness equipment. Cindy Wright will be able to tell you where it is placed on the website for you to find. We are closing locker rooms, so you will not be able to use any of that space. And I'm sorry that we can't do loops until we get into phase 2. So phase 2 is when we're going to be issuing loops and workout gear. So do your best to change that culture so that we can get to phase 2. Then we'll obviously expand our operation and be more communicative of what we're going to do for you once we get into that phase. So I am pretty brief in this because I don't have much to share other than that I am here for all of you at any time. Please, if you come to the equipment room, which I will be there, you do also need to make an appointment. It isn't just a drop by anymore, although I love to see all of you because, me, I'm a hugger. So, but thank you, Corey. And if anybody has any questions for me, shoot me an email. If you have my cell phone, give me a text, whatever. But yeah, I look forward to seeing all of you guys because I love all of you guys. Thanks.
If there's anybody that this impacts the most, it is Kelly Jones, who loves giving out hugs, and we all miss our Kelly Jones hugs. That is for sure. Just a brief mention, Mike Mattia mentioned earlier, the video we did with Suki Nedzuma, our sophomore basketball player, who's going through the motions of what it might be like for a student athlete walking through our building, everything from entering the doors the proper way to going to the equipment room and dropping off the loop, the partition in front of that, the table there in the equipment room area, as well as the training room too. So check out that video. It's on YouTube if you have not already. And last but not least, of course, is Cindy Wright, who sent me a nice updated, nice little glamour shot there. She is the director of EAS Student Success and Wellbeing. And Cindy, I think your resume is much longer than that, in all your years at Gettysburg as a professor too, of course. Your 31st year at Gettysburg. And fun fact about Cindy, she has 3 daughters, all of whom went to Gettysburg College. And good old, what's her name? Her husband was the former AD as well, Dave Wright. So Cindy, it's all yours.
And I have to say they're all gainfully employed, so big plug for Gettysburg College. Well, good evening, everyone, and it is such an honor to be here tonight to see you. And we just cannot wait, as you can tell with our enthusiasm, to welcome you back to campus. We've been anxiously awaiting for this date to get here, so it won't be long now. As my title suggests, I care about student success and well-being at the highest level. that is my role. And so I'm always paying attention to that with our student athletes. And we often think of well-being as a dimension that's just very flat. It's just a physical dimension of well-being. But well-being is very multi-dimensional. There's a lot of different aspects of well-being, like mental health and social health and financial health. And so we take that seriously here at Gettysburg. And sometimes we understand that our students might have a situation where they're struggling in one area of their well-being. And so I am the liaison, I am the contact person for our department to help them with that. And I can also do something connecting them to a program that I am also a part of called CARE. And CARE is the college program, and there's around 20 different constituents across the campus that are on the CARE team. And what we do is we will lift up students that are struggling at a high level, and we'll check in and we'll talk about it, and we'll say, oh, are they going to class? How are they doing academically? Are they getting enough sleep? We'll talk to their RA. So we got a lot of eyes on our students all the time. We're very fortunate in athletics because you're surrounded by not only your coaches, but the athletic department. But some of our students don't have always that luxury like we do with athletics. The other thing that I really want to say I'm so excited that we're launching is called the Student Success Advocate Program. This is another college program. It's another way for us to put eyes on our students. Every first-year student is going to be assigned a Student Success Advocate. I'm going to be one. There's 15 other people. And so every student will have this person that will be their go-to for 4 years. This person stays with the class for the 4 years. So for any of our first years out there, you're going to be getting your advocate soon. And maybe I might be one of yours. I don't know yet. And then the last thing I want to mention is our Student Athlete Wellbeing Program. We started it last year. It was a pilot, and it was so successful that we are expanding that program. Last year we talked about, we did a lot of different topics, like we connected with career engagement, and we had them talk about career competencies. We talked about social media, we talked about nutrition, but we're even going to go deeper this year, and we're going to go deeper into sleep, deeper into leadership, and we're definitely going to be lifting up diversity and inclusion, which we all know is a very important topic across our country right now. So of course, reach out to me with any questions that you might have, and I turn it back to Corey.
Thank you, Cindy. And of course, we've been hard at work on the Student Athlete Wellbeing Program, a lot to come down that avenue in the coming months. But first, we need to get everybody back on campus and ensure our own well-being as an institution, staff, and campus body. So that is everything for the presentation. And now we can turn it over to the questions. And we do have some questions that were submitted prior to this town hall, as well as one that came in. So we'll start with that question from the Schurman family. So welcome, I hope you are well. Their question, I'll put this out first before we determine who can answer it, is how will G-Berg go about beginning the phased return to practices, and when do you anticipate the phases to begin? So I'm gonna hedge my bets and go with one of the Mikes being able to answer this question. And I know Mike Mattia, you may have said something earlier today on a call about when we could potentially start the intro phases as well.
Yeah, I can start this one off, and I think Mike Cantelli can fill in any gaps for me that I may miss. I do know that obviously the students are going to be coming back next week, and they're going to be going through the testing program through the institution. So that'll take, to get all of our students, that'll take a whole week to complete. And then they'll be getting started up with classes starting on August 17th. And during that week of classes is when the medical clearance will take place from an athletic standpoint, where they'll see our trainers and team doctor for that clearance. So at this moment, the earliest that we can get started would be August 24th. And you know, I don't want to steal any of Mike Cantelli's thunder, but how we transition is it's from one phase to the next, as Mike did a great job of talking about the environment around us, what's going on in that particular team. And it's going to be the medical staff, our sports medicine staff, in consultation with all the other factors on campus, through the conference and the NCAA and the state and locally, which will determine when a team will move into the next phase.
Thanks, Mike. I'll just add a couple things. Mike had the dates right. You'll be hearing from your individual coaches soon about, we'll be having team meetings the week next week with the athletic training staff. And then the medical clearances are the week of the 17th, the first week of classes. So we'll be conducting those in Frame Gym throughout that week. And just another thing that I did not mention with that phased approach, it will be not only dependent on what our local, state, and national and all our communities are doing as far as the virus, how we're doing, but there may be some individuals, so don't compare. There may be some sports that will enter some phases at different times. You can imagine how that is. There's just some sports that just the nature of what they do, it's much easier to physical distance, wear masks, have no contact, do all that. For example, golf is much easier than wrestling to stay away from somebody. So they may progress through these phases a little bit quicker. So try not to compare and to other athletes on campus, but just know that we are working hard to move everybody as quickly and as safely through those so we can get back to as much normalcy as possible.
We just had another question statement come through the chat room. Having students clean equipment seems risky and lack of consistency and an extremely important requirement for such a contagious virus. Now, I think that gets to the whole point of the accountability aspect of what we're expecting staff and student athletes at Gettysburg. Mike Cantelli and Mike Hoyt, this might be a question for you.
Sure, I'll start, Mike. Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to see that as a trend throughout the institution. So we thought that in athletics, we're just going to stay with what every student's going to be used to. So you're going to notice, you're going to be in your class, you're going to be asked to wipe down your desk or your lab table or wherever you are. That's going to be a responsibility of yours. So, we're asking you, we're not going to ask you to clean up someone else's area. Okay, we're going to ask if you use a piece of equipment to help wipe that down after your use so the next person coming in can be as safe as possible. So that's going to be a trend throughout the campus. So I think we'll all be used to that once we get in a routine here.
I'll just add to that, and Mike made a great point. You're cleaning your own space as far as your workout area, but in addition to that, we do have workers that will be cleaning the entire facility on a regular basis. That's going to be scheduled more than it has been done in the past. We have an electrostatic sprayer and things of that nature so in addition to you cleaning your personal workout space, there will be cleaning of the entire facility at intermittent rates throughout the day.
Yes, having just seen the plans for the Jaeger Center, I believe there's an hour set aside during each day and each weekend to clean equipment specifically, where the whole facility will be shut down for that purpose. Mike Cantelli, quick question for you. Obviously, we have testing coming up, and the question coming from the volleyball squad is, how are we guaranteeing that 24 to 48 hour testing turnaround? And, are we getting better service than some of the hospitals, considering we've heard, tests not coming in for 10 to 14 days?
Thanks, volleyball squad. Miss you guys. Yeah, we've been very fortunate. We have connected with a lab that we've gone through a lot of investigation, a lot of back and forth with different labs. And the one that we have decided to go with has limited their people that they're testing with. So it's just us, another college, and a couple nursing homes in their home area. So they're keeping their operations small so that they can do an efficient job. And so right now, that is what they're telling us. Obviously, the process starts real soon. So everyone, we're confident that they're going to be able to handle this. And so we're going with it. We feel very confident with the lab and the process. So keeping fingers crossed, but we're confident that it's going to happen. The one other thing, the bigger labs that you hear across the country, like, I don't have to name names, but bigger ones that use multiple institutions, hospitals, nursing homes, they're the ones that I think are lagging behind a little bit, the 7 days that we're hearing. So ours is very specified and very concise. So we're fortunate to get with this lab.
Mike Cantelli, along those same lines, was there any talk about testing students before they came to campus?
There was some discussion with that, but as you can imagine, with travel and everything, the test is really good for that time period that the test was taken. So there was thought that if we test somebody a week ahead of time, yes, we get the results, but then all the movements and connections during that week could really make that test that they did a non-issue. So we know there's a lot of traveling, there's a lot of contact. So we felt that we would get better results if we waited till on campus. We all get in our little group, our little nest here, and try to keep us under an umbrella here. And plus, around the country, as was Nate said earlier, sometimes it's difficult, or it is difficult to get a test if you're asymptomatic, you're not showing any tests. There are not a lot of places that are out there testing people just to test people. So we want to keep that in mind and not make it a real burden. So we felt the best possible results and the best time was to do it upon arrival to our institution to get the best results.
Thanks, Mike. Mike Mattia, I know we talked about this briefly before we went live. Is the campus closed to visitors or not? And what does that mean for spectators as well? And it looks like that may have been a vague answer during the first parent town hall. Now, I can say that we as a staff received an email from our HR office saying that visitors would have to register before coming to campus. They would have to get approval to come to campus. Now, how that is impacted for things like move-in day, I'm not really sure right now. There might be more information on that during Wednesday's town hall with the college town hall at 1:30. I don't know if anybody else has any more information regarding that, but visitors will have to register. And as far as spectators go, we need to get the student athletes to campus and make sure we're doing things right before we can really even go down that path.
Yeah, Corey, I'll jump in very briefly to your point on spectators, right? We need to get them through these phases so we can get to competition, so we can deal with spectators then. And to be honest with you, a lot of that's going to be determined by the state. You know, I'm originally from the Pennsylvania, Philadelphia area, and I'm a big Philadelphia Eagles fan. And I know people who have season tickets, and it was the mayor of Philadelphia who said that the Eagles can't have any, or the Phillies can't have any spectators while they play this year. So a lot of we're going to be able to have spectators or not, maybe out of our hands, and will be decided by the state or our local governments in that area once we get to that phase to have competition. And in terms of visitors, I do know, as I mentioned earlier, we're trying to limit the amount of visitors on campus. Now, move-in's a different story, and I know they have rules about only one person is able to accompany the student when they go and move into their dorm room. You can have multiple people come with you, but only one will be able to accompany the student into their room. The rest will have to stay in the car as they go through the move-in process. So trying to discourage our students from leaving campus and coming back, hence the reason why we have the academic schedule we have and have canceled fall break. And we're also trying to limit the number of people that come onto our campus as well. So that nest that Mike Cantelli talked about, once we've gotten everybody tested and know that we're safe and healthy on this campus, that we can maintain and keep it that way.
Thanks, Mike. I had a request to go back to a slide, so let me find the phase slide. I think we had it twice in here. Let's go to, I think Mike's slide was a little more, where is it? There we go. So here's the phase slide, and I believe Mike Cantelli, you said this could start August 24th.
That's what we're, yes, that's what we're looking at, as long as we can get all medical clearances done. And we have to do some other concussion things, some balance testing. So we hope to get our medical clearances done that first week of the 17th. We hope to get that done. Again, we're relying on physicians somewhat in that phase. But then 24th, sometime in that week, we hope to get started, and starting in this phase 1 of small group work, more, you know, strength and conditioning and the acclimatization phase that Mike Hoyt talked about.
And it's intentional that there are no dates on this. They're just, we don't know, and we're constantly responding to the environment around us, responding to regulations from the state, NCAA, federal as well too. So that's intentional. We can shoot for that week of the 24th and go from there, hopefully. We have another chat room question, and this concerns something that has, I can say, been a hot topic among our staff, and that is incoming freshman athletes not being able to room with other freshman athletes. And the question is, why is housing unwilling to change their policy during, you know, this time with the coronavirus? Mike Mattia, do you want to take this one?
Sure. It's a great question, and definitely we had some long discussions about this. Ultimately, the institution decided not to change its policy. Part of the reason that we're deciding to bring everybody back, right? This is a liberal arts residential environment, and part of the reason we're such a type of school that we are is to get many different thoughts, many different people from differing backgrounds. And I know for the last few years, they've had a lot of success in terms of people living with their first year seminar classes that they have, and they will continue to do so this year. So it just became really important for the institution to maintain that policy that they have for the educational purposes of people being together from differing backgrounds. And again, I know part of the questioning from the athletic side was, well, we're holding ourselves to a higher standard, but that gets back to let's continue to be leaders and hold not only ourselves, our teammates, but the rest of campus accountable. Because no matter what we do from an athletic standpoint, we're going to need the other people on campus to follow suit as well and take it upon ourselves to be leaders. And if our roommates aren't following what they should do, well, let's make sure that we get them to do so. And it's going to take not only a culture change of the entire campus so we can maintain and progress to where we want to be through the fall semester.
Thank you, Mike. We have a question, two-parter from Maddie Pagliaro. Hi, Maddie. So the first one is, do we need flu shots before we go back? I think that's a Mike Cantelli question. And then the second one is, what is the rule regulation for using the Jaeger Center just on your own, like non-athletes?
I will take the first part of that, and then probably Cindy or Mike can take the second half. That's a good question about the flu shot before you come. Tough one. I think, I know they are requiring everyone to have a flu shot at some point. I don't know a date by that. So if you can get one, I'd say get it. I have not heard a date that they want that by, but I know they want it at some point, our health services. So I'm sorry, I don't have more specific to that, but I would encourage, if you can get one, get it now, and then it'll save you time once you get back on campus.
Let me jump in real quick on that. I do have to follow up. Mike is correct. If you can get one now, get one, but then make sure that you have proof that you've gotten one. Everyone is going to be required at some point to have one, but the institution will also be providing them on campus like they typically have in years past as well. So you'll be able to get one here once you're on campus. We don't have them at this moment, but we anticipate them getting them relatively soon after fall semester starts up. But to Mike's point, if you can get one now, definitely get one and make sure you secure proof that you have gotten.
And I'll give a shout out first to say, hi, Maddie, miss you, see you soon. With the Jaeger Center, we are going to be up and running. We need a week to get our staff trained. Our students, unfortunately, in the middle of spring break, after we came back, we didn't get that opportunity. So we'll be training them that first week once classes start, and we'll open up on the 24th. And it will look a little bit different, but not too strange. We've moved the equipment around, so there's a physical distancing between the equipment, and we have a lot of cleaning supplies around, and but it's still as beautiful as ever, and it will be open.
If I could jump in too, just from a strength and conditioning standpoint, yeah, you go ahead and use the Jaeger Center and everything like that. I would just say make sure you're communicating with me or the coach that's working with you in your strength and conditioning program, so that you're not going above and beyond your training. We want to be safe about this, and we don't want you overdoing it. So just make sure that you are communicating with the coach that's working with you in strength and conditioning, so that you are doing it and not being counterproductive into what you're doing in the Jaeger Center.
Thank you, Mike and Cindy. So Mike Cantelli, question for you. What happens if a team member tests positive for COVID-19? I know this is in your protocol, your plans that are being in place that we'll have on the website this week.
Sure, that's a great question. So a lot of this will be taken over by the health center, and then if you're an athlete like everyone here, we'll be working in conjunction with the health center. They have hired case managers to work these specific cases of anybody that tests positive. So we ask, of course, as always, we ask if you're not feeling well to not come to the athletic training room or not walk over to the health center. We're asking you to call the health center and set up an appointment, or someone can walk you through some steps. But then we go into the contact tracing phase of that. So we look back at who this particular student has come in close contact with since 2 days before their initial symptoms, or they tested positive. Because some people don't have symptoms, right? So if they tested positive without any symptoms, we look 2 days before the test. But if you do have symptoms, we look 2 days before your start of your symptoms, ask you to tell us who you've been in close contact with. And close contact is defined as within a 6-foot space for 15 minutes or more, okay? Or direct physical contact, such as kissing or sharing or picking up a tissue or a shared towel or anything. That's why we don't want any of that shared things. So 15 minutes within 6 feet is considered a close contact. So that will try to identify all those people that have come into that close contact, notify them, and those people will have to quarantine for 14 days. And so that's how we try to stop any spreading. Try to find out who has been in close contact, limit their exposure, or definitely stop their exposure to other people, and then go from there. Try to break that chain down the line. If that person, if you are a case, if you did test positive, there's also something I should have mentioned earlier. There are some spaces on campus and off campus that we have designated as COVID dorms. So there are some rooms on campus, and there's also some hotels that have been designated to where people go for this isolation. There will be case managers that will be checking and doing virtual check-ins, and if there's any issue, food will be brought to you. You'll be able to attend classes virtually. So all that should be able to still go on, but just more in a virtual kind of aspect. I hope I answered that question. If there's anything more specific that I didn't answer, just ask me specifically.
Thanks, Mike. I think this question is for Mike Hoyt and concerns the use of the facilities with so many different groups wanting. Of course, we're blurring that line between traditional and non-traditional a little bit this year. So that too blurs the line between prioritizing which teams can use which equipment and when. And with so many spaces now that we're trying to put on the campus to use for workouts and strength and conditioning, how are we going to ensure the teams are getting their workouts and getting their conditioning in? Oh, you're still muted, Mike.
That's a great question. That's the next step for us as a coaching staff, to sit down and look at class schedules. And, you know, the fact that we have 4 spaces now that we can utilize is going to help that. So we've got to sit down and have some hard discussions and look at when we can get athletes in, at what times, and do the best we can. And there's going to have to be some give and take on everybody's part so that we can get people in and get their workouts in and make sure we're making progress at the same time.
Yeah, I'll jump in and just say that we're very fortunate how this has played out in terms of the equipment and having that dedicated space in Hauser Fieldhouse, which we typically don't have. So that's going to expand the hours that we're going to be able to get our athletes in there. And I was just having this conversation with Mike Cantelli the other day, especially early on when we're in the smaller groups and most of our activity is going to be done outside. We're going to possibly be able to have 7, 8 teams all practicing all at the same time spread throughout our campus. So we'll be able to get a lot of people in and out throughout the course of the day. There may be some, as mentioned before, there may be some early mornings and there may be some evenings, but most of that will be determined based off of class schedules as well. So we're going to get everybody in, we're going to get everybody through, and every team this fall is going to have the opportunity to interact with their teams and their coaches and get their athletic activity in.
It's going to be a lot of tire flipping out at Shark Field this year, for sure. We better get some more big tires out there, Mike Hoyt, because I only remember 4 or 5 of them. So I have two more questions. One was pre-submitted, one was put on the chat here. So I'll go with the one on the chat, and it concerns, you know, when the student athletes get to campus, start engaging in the drills, in the training. What if they feel uncomfortable with the situation and scenario? Who do they go to? Who do they talk to if they don't like how things are being implemented and run? And how do they do so without making it public to the world?
Yeah, I'll jump in and just grab that one. That's a phenomenal question. And as you'll see in the student athlete pledge that comes out, there's a line in there that says that we're not forcing anybody to participate on their teams this year. And if they feel uncomfortable doing so, that is fine. And we completely understand that. And when things return back to normal, that person's status on their team will not change in any way, shape, or form, and we'll be waiting with open arms for them to come back on their team. Should they begin to participate in what we have planned and begin to feel uncomfortable, I ask that they come to the person that they feel most comfortable going to. Obviously, we suggest that you go to your coach first and talk to your individual coach about that. But if that's an uncomfortable situation, I know every single person sitting on this call right now will be more than happy to talk to them, and I especially happy to have that person come to talk to me. Let us know. We're wanting that feedback. We're actually going to be looking forward to getting that feedback, and we'll be happy to make adjustments as necessary. As you've even seen in some of the professional leagues out there, when things started, they've needed to make some adjustments. So we feel we've got a great plan in place. We will try it, see what's working, what doesn't work, and we will definitely be making the adjustments that are necessary and happy to gather that feedback to whoever you are comfortable providing that information to.
Thanks, Mike. And I just have one more question that really hasn't been answered, and I think this is the end-all question for everyone on this call is, will we play other teams this fall, or is it all going to be practicing and prepping?
That's the $1 million question, right? If we could predict that, I think all of us would be would be going to Las Vegas or something like that. You know, our intent is to try to get through these phases and compete. Again, a lot of that is going to be determined to what happens on our campus, but then what is happening on others' campuses, so we could find somebody to compete against, and then what ultimately the NCAA decides. You know, this is unprecedented territory. It's a super fluid situation, and I know things nationally don't look great now. We're hoping that people start following what they need to do, and we'll be doing so on our campus, and that it'll improve, which will get us through to our phases quicker and hopefully get us to where we need to be, and hopefully other campuses are doing likewise. So this is a day-by-day scenario. We're going to do the best we can, and just the virus is going to be the one dictating to us when we're going to be able to get together and have competition. But know that we're going to be monitoring it every single day and doing our best to get everybody back to normalcy as fast and as best, but as safe and healthy as we can.
I think that covers all the questions we had that were pre-submitted, and also those that were submitted through the chat. We're about an hour and 20 minutes into the conversation. It was an important conversation to have. We thank everyone for joining us today that could. Again, we'll record this, upload it to YouTube so everyone can view it later. Thank you to the presenters that gave us great information. There will be more information coming out every single day, so please go back to gettysburg.edu, Better Together, gettysburgsports.com, to the COVID fact and resource page. We will be updating that consistently throughout the week with a lot of the information you heard today, as well as more detailed information about all of our different areas. You're welcome. Someone just said thank you. You are welcome. So with that being said, I think that's a good note. Thank you again to everyone that tuned in. We wish you well, and we can't wait to see you all when you come back to campus.